make sure that you have. Okay, so, and then the rest of it's pretty simple. And then you just, package it all up, get your money order and whatever else. I sent them a money order. I sent them a little extra money too, because I know that it's not cheap to process all this, and they, they have some really good legal people who uphold the right to have the world passport, kind of a thing. So world passport is really good. So what did I need supporting, identifiers for? Well, you could use a supporting identifier, could, in the system, could be your birth certificate, could be your driver's license, could be your social security card. But once I had, my documents in place, I didn't want to use the system identifiers to identify me as the trustee and the power of attorney over my capitalized corporation lost at sea vessel. I wanted to have my own kind of identifying documents to support myself in lower and uppercase name and as a different kind of identifier. So now if I went into a bank and I was going to open a bank account, I have two pieces of ID. I have a world birth certificate and I have a world passport. And so now I don't have to use the system's documents, even though I have a driver's license and I use it to drive. But that's not me. That's my vessel lost at sea capitalized trust. I mean, look at your driver's license. It has your capitalized name on it. So it's you operating as a legal fiction. And this is where you get into trouble legally if you get pulled over and you say the wrong things, because you're not real. You are actually committing a crime in the system. You're trying to say that this is me when that capitalized name on that driver's license is actually a vessel lost at sea. It's not even human. And so you are creating basic identity theft in the system. So this is why, attorneys will say to you, like, if you get pulled over with the cops or whatever else, it's better not to talk to them because you could break 50,000 laws in their system. Number one law is that you're not real. So you're an imposer. So you are pretending to be a capitalized name of a vessel that was registered lost at sea when you were born through the birth registration. And so how would I handle that? Well, if I got pulled over, I would handle my insurance or registration and my ID, my driver's license, which my driver's license is one of the identifiers of my trust, of, my capitalized name, my vessel that they've registered me at in my factualized trust, which with my documents, I'm the power of attorney of that trust, right? And as the man on the land, the upper and lowercase person with the blood seal, proof through blood seal. So, I would hand my documents over and see what they're going to charge me for. If they wanted me to sign a ticket, then I would actually write on the ticket, trustee, and then I would sign my name in upper and lowercase. And then what would happen is that they would give me a copy of that. And then as the trustee, I'm signing, so I'm not committing fraud by just signing my name there as a vessel lost at sea. I mean, can a vessel lost at sea actually sign a signature? No. So no matter what, they have you on a crime, right? Because you're committing identity fraud. You're saying that I'm a vessel lost at sea and I'm signing this document. See, this is why people can, go to jail for 5 years for having like a light out over their license plate. Because, they keep thinking they can fight the system like, no, I'm a real person. Or like, no, and you committed fraud on the original document and you didn't even know it. And so we had you at that. So we can take your property, we can sell it, we can do whatever the hell that we want to do to you. And then this is fact. So if I got the ticket or whatever else, then I would sign it trustee, because I'm, with my documents, I'm the actual trustee of the vessel that's lost at sea, and I'm also the power of attorney of it. And then I would sign my upper and lower case name. And then what would happen is that I would take that ticket, I would copy it, and then I would send my documents, my supporting documents, my factualized trust, my power of attorney doc, maybe my expat doc, and with a letter explaining that, please, look at the signature where it clearly states that I'm the trustee over this estate, this vessel lost at sea, and anything that's held within that vessel, including the driver's license. And so I'm going to submit these documents to you, and then I see where it goes. And either they'll have me come to trial or they won't. And then because I have to represent myself in a court, because I'm not going to pay that ticket, because then I'm committing double fraud. I'm signing on a ticket as, in my name as a vessel lost at sea, so I'm committing fraud on that, because, do I look like a vessel lost at sea? I'm not a vessel lost at sea. So, and then on top of it, now I'm paying a fine and a ticket for a vessel lost at sea that, clearly the government owns, right? Because they create a trust. You have a federal bank account that they start, which is a trust, and that the United States is owner of that trust. And it'll say right on the birth certificates, any of the newer birth certificates that come as a stock certificate, it'll say sometimes in the very left-hand corner, you need like a micro, you need to get something to look at it because it's in super small print, and it'll say banknote of the United States of America. And what they're saying is that you're lost at sea, you're a commodity, they own you, and they've put themselves as the trustee of your estate. So anything that you sign for or get in contract with under, your regular legal status, you're committing fraud on all fronts, because you're signing for a vessel lost at sea, and it's also a trust that you don't own, that you're not a trustee on as well. So this is why it's really hard in some of these legal things to discharge debt. Even if, you claim yourself as sovereign, it's really hard to discharge debt, because you're, under their law, you're a vessel lost at sea. You have no legal authority over your trust. They're the trustee. The trustee is the one that would, get rid of your debt, discharge your debt, or do all the other legal things that your trust needs to be done. So if you're not in control of your trust, and so this is why I like the paperwork that we're doing, because it puts me back as the trustee, and that I'm the power of attorney over that trust. And, I don't file documents. This is the other thing too, is a lot of I love Judge Anna. I love her. But one of the things that, me and my friend who's the retired common law court judge talked about, do we really want to have documents that we have to file in their system so that they know what we're doing or what we're up to? I mean, it's almost like, caving down on your hands and knees to their system. Like, please see my docs, and please see me as sovereign, and, see me as, like begging them. So I just don't want to play that game. I don't want to get into playing that game. I want to have my own docs and have, and be in control of my own trust, my, lost vessel, and all the identifiers of that trust, and then have a passport, world passport, and a world birth certificate, so that I have two other functioning legal documents that I can put out if I need some kind of ID to verify who I am, so that I can get things opened other than using my vessel trust IDs, right? So, but I get to do both the way that we're doing it. And, there's nothing that's bulletproof. If you choose to like step out of the system, you're going to have to, represent yourself and see how things go. But it's better to have the presumption, like I was saying before. Law is based on presumption. So if you have these documents and factualized trust and all this other stuff that supports who you say you're doing, and then you need them and you submit them, then, you're going to be less likely to have a lot of questions. Like I said, my bank now is super protective. It's almost like they've put me into the private banking sector, even though I don't have the kind of money to be in the private side. And so with everything, there's private and public, and you are public because you're a vessel lost at sea. You're nothing. You're owned. And so it's up to you to make the decision about how you want to operate, because then you have private banking, which is, the IRS never gets to know anything about your bank accounts because you're a private citizen. So you just kind of at some point, and it's not, there's no like, a certain path that you're going to have to weed through. I think, I'm kind of an anti-Jesus person. I was forced to grow up. My grandmother was a legitimate prophet and also exorcist, and we came from a really strange bloodline and family, and so she became Pentecostal so that she could hide the family. You know what I mean? So we look like we fit in. So I've been doing this stuff my whole life. You're this person, but then you have to like try to assimilate and fit in and whatever else. So I've learned not to like buck the system too much or fight it, and end up beaten and half alive and in jail, and I try to avoid that kind of stuff at all costs.
Yes.
Okay. I know, I was just thinking, something just flashed across it was like somebody's talking to me, so something just flashed right across my mental horizons.
That's
anyway,
okay.
So,
That's okay. I have it happen a lot when people send me Skypes during my show. It always distracts me.
Yeah. So I had a bit of a distraction. So,
Not a problem.
Do you guys have the paperwork for all the redemption process? Because I have a friend that's going to Sacramento to redeem her. It's her Jubilee year, so she's turning 51.
Yeah, we don't have that kind of paperwork. I mean, if you want that kind of paperwork, you can seek out like Judge Anna or Winston Shroud or something like that. But, like Winston Shroud just went to jail for 10 years, right, in federal prison.
Do you know that story? Can you tell a little more of the detail of that? Hello?
Are you talking to me?
Yes. The story with Winston Shroud.
Paperwork, like I was saying, there's like Judge Anna's paperwork. There's
okay.
Winston Shroud's paperwork. Some of their paperwork is kind of similar, and they have to go file it, you know what I mean, with the system. Where the type of paperwork that we're doing, we chose not to do that.
So you guys, I kind of came in a little bit late. I'm sorry to interrupt, but so who here has redeemed the birth certificate?
No, please don't interrupt. We're live on air right now, and I've been talking with Bridgette, so the time for talking will be 25 minutes from now when the show resets and we open it up for chat. So at this point, hang on to that question till later, unless, Bridgette, you want to open to the chat room.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fine. We can open to the chat room. But the thing is that I chose not to go down the path, and it's because your listener wasn't here at the beginning. He hasn't really kind of heard like the whole story.
Right.
But we chose not to go down the path of, I mean, we had all the paperwork necessary. We know a lot of people who've gone down that road. I know a lot of people who've also gone to prison, you know, over, you know, because once you start submitting your stuff into the system, the very system that is the trustee over you, and then they know what you're up to and what you're doing. And it's like a super difficult, long, lengthy process, which doesn't ever give you back. I mean, the thing is that there's UCC laws now. There has been UCC laws since Heather Tatucci created them, you know, that return us back to sovereignty. And then there was a factualized trust that was put together with it so that you could use them, so that you are the trustee and the power, you know, like we created the power of attorney doc, but it puts you back in control of your trust and your vessel lost at sea. The thing is like, you know, you can redeem, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, your birth certificate. It's a process. You have to go through several different kinds of agencies and get the apostilles and then, you know, send it in. But, you know, this is the thing is like, it's a lot of work and there's no guarantee. And the other thing too is that it puts a spotlight on you. And, you know, they can still, people that have done this, right, who have done that kind of paperwork are in federal jail. Like I have, for example, one of my clients who I'm working on helping to integrate because I do a lot of, you know, different kinds of dimensional energetic work that I've been doing pretty much my whole life. And so I have a lot of clients that come to see me for really heavy type energetic healing. But she was in the MK Ultra programs forever. She ended up getting involved with Winston Shroud and a lot of this type of paperwork and other people in paperwork. And the next thing she knew, she went to federal prison. And now she has, not only did she end up going to federal prison, nothing could stop her from going to federal prison. You know, apostilling the birth certificate, doing this paperwork, doing that paperwork. You know, this is part of their system. Like, you know, it's not a need that I have to, you know, go to the system and try to, you know, get legal documents into the system proving. The thing is like you're never going to get your hands on your federal trust. You never will. And I know people that were using their, up until Heather Tatucci and all that went south with the federal trust. I know people who were getting their bills paid that was just charging debt on it. But when Heather Tatucci, you know, and all that went down, they shut down those federal bank accounts from people being able to use them. So the thing is like, you know, a lot of people do this because they think they're going to get something. They're going to get their $10 million in their federal trust accounts. And believe me, I have a friend of mine who's the top of the line. She is like a consultant with the Bureau of International Settlement. She has one of the people she works with is from the internal part of the Pentagon. And they are still working with a lot of this paperwork, trying to get, even though that they've had the birth certificates apostilled and that they go in and they submit them and file them, they still do not have their hands on any of their federal bank accounts that are, you know, supposed to be out there. I mean, obviously they're out there. I have people that have discharged their debt over it, but, you know, it's like a monthly power bill or medication bill or different kinds of things, right? But that's all stopped now. That's all gone. I mean, so people are doing this because they think they're going to be getting a whole bunch of money, and that's usually kind of the path that a lot of these people are taking. The thing is, it's not going to get you your money, and you're not going to get your hands on that money.
Is it open for questions?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have gone over this, but redeem a value. I heard about redeeming for value. Like if you were to get a bill or anything, all you do is put your stamp, write it, sign it, and redeem for value. And when you return it, basically things get paid for. To where you don't have the physical
it's
money.
not working right. It's not working for the masses anymore. Hasn't for about a year. And we were doing it, like 15, 18 years ago. Like I said, up until recently, it was working. I knew people that for 10 years, were getting their different bills paid every month, by submitting them that way. There were certain IRS offices that you would send it to, and they would stamp it, and then the bill would be paid. But over the last year, none of that really works anymore. And they've shut down most of those accounts. And, the other thing too, like I've looked at a lot of the paperwork on the Federal Reserve site for getting your accounts so that you can actually discharge debt, but they don't provide any of the documents that you're going to need, and they can decide at any time that they don't want to do that. And so this is the thing we're going to go back to. People do a lot of this paperwork stuff for financial reasons, to get something, get some money or get their bills paid or whatever, and it's a really bad doorway to walk through. If that happens as a byproduct, because this is the thing, is like one of the biggest things that my native teachers have taught me is about entitlement. And entitlement gets you into a lot of trouble. And people believe that they're entitled to these bank accounts that are held in the Federal Reserve. The problem is that you're not, because you're standing right now as you're a vessel lost at sea. So legally, how can a vessel lost at sea do paperwork, sign a signature, because that signature that you're signing is fraudulent, because you are creating identity theft, trying to discharge your debt, right? And that's kind of like how the system sees it, because when you were born, you were registered as a vessel lost at sea. So the doctors in the world create the largest crimes. I believe that the doctors are the biggest criminals in the world because they hide everything. And they sell us, basically. And then once the government is the trustee over us as a lost vessel, then they own everything. That's why we even if you pay off your house and you get a title to it, you don't really own it.
That's why we give to Caesar what is Caesar's.
Right. And so the thing is like, we have to just be really careful about our entitlement. And this kind of makes people a little bit, wanting to go after the Federal Reserve or the systems and try to get this money and get their debt discharged and all this other stuff, instead of living within their means. Something else I talked about earlier was like not getting in contract with people so that you have debt that you have to pay.
So my question to you is, I'm sorry to interrupt, I just don't know when you're going to pause.
Yeah.
But what is the point for you to redeem or do the redemption process physically in this world?
I don't have to have a redemption process.
Or so what are you talking about then? Redeeming your birth certificate, or what is it that you're speaking of?
No, you're talking about financial.
Okay, what is the end goal of this? Like, what is there a goal to this?
Wait. Hawk, I'm sorry to interrupt you right now, but there is a goal to this, and the whole idea is that I've invited Bridgette in as an invited guest who has worked through the process to explain the process. And this is
My process.
Yes. And the object of what's out there and all the different things that different people are doing are not germane to what the show is about. And as Bridgette explains, it's not about at all going into the system to trying to financially get paid by the system for how much they've got banked against you. What it more is, yeah, it's
I'm not redeeming myself.
right. You're just leaving the system, but not even leaving the system, just becoming subject with a world passport and a world birth certificate. You're no longer in the game of nation state. And where that leads you to, well, this is a new way on steampunk radio. And the objective of the new way is to look at options for doing things that are not necessarily on the table. So the last 2 days we've gone into Tartaria. Today we're going into how to do paperwork for getting out of the system. Tomorrow I'm going to explain a new calendar.
Yeah, I mean, not really getting out of the system.
Right. I didn't
being
mean...
able to live in the system but not participate. And not making yourself a threat. And not redeeming yourself. I mean, just think about that word. You're going to, redeem your birth certificate? You're going to redeem you? Redeem. I mean, do you really need to be redeemed?
Yeah, let's not get into theology at this point.
Yeah, so that's why I have a lot of problems with this paperwork and who the paperwork has to be submitted to and who it has to be approved by and who it has to be stamped by. That's why I'm pretty anti about a lot of the paperwork out there, even though, I'm really good friends with and I love Judge Anna, and I'm so glad, for all of the legal resources that she provides people. But it's just not the type of legal system that I wanted to participate with. And so, coming here, I wanted just to present, basically what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and then how you can do it. And so by getting, a world passport and a world birth certificate, in your upper and lowercase name, it starts your process of returning you back to being a person on the land. And it starts to give you options of, legal documents that you're going to need in the world, and also ability to come and go, as you please. But then you also need, supporting documents to go with it. And so, if people are interested, maybe in a few weeks, remember that it could take 12 weeks to get your passport and world birth certificate. And so those are things that you want to get on right away. And like I said, you can just get them. You don't have to have the other supporting documents like the factualized trust and the power of attorney and, all these other documents that we have and we use with it. But you don't have to do that. But you could still, instead of getting a U.S. passport, you could get yourself a world passport, and at least, step out of the box just a little bit. But the thing is, I'm not an expert. I'm only an expert in my life. I'm only an expert in how I want to travel in this world. I'm only an expert in the type of language that I want to use. Obviously, I'm not going to use any kind of legal paperwork that I have to redeem anything. It sounds kind of like religion, doesn't it? I'm not into that. I want to just keep it,
Is there a dollar amount to receive your birth certificate and your world passport? Because I know that's going to be very important, because all these things will not come to pass until the gospel is reached to every place in the world.
Yeah, I think that the world passport, you can go online. It's $100 for 10 years. I don't do the world passport. There's another agency that does it. And then I think the world birth certificate is like $25. And then whatever it takes to, file your application and whatever else. Kind of a thing. And you can go online to YouTube and you can see, and like I did it, because I'm not going to get a United States passport. I'm just not going to do it. And I'm not going to get a passport that lists me in capitalized letters as my corporation trust lost vessel, that I'm registered under from the day that I was born. So the one thing that really appealed to me with the World Passport was that they give you the option of either getting it in full caps or getting it in your upper and lowercase name, the name that you were born with. And the World Birth Certificate is the same way. And what it does is it really gives you an option of what kind of documents you're going to use. What kind of documents are you going to use when they ask you to open a bank account and you need ID? Are you going to use that corporation, registered lost at sea vessel, all cap name passport that the U.S. gave you or other countries? Are you going to use that driver's license? Because, they're basically in ownership of that. So I want to use documents that show that I'm an upper and lowercase person. And so it's what really appealed to me with the World Passport and the World Birth Certificate. And so it gives me an option of legal documents to use that would show a bank that I'm operating in a different system, without having to sit down and spend 4 hours with them, talking about my redeemed birth certificate and all the processes, and this proves that I'm sovereign, and I filed this paperwork, and I filed that paperwork, and you have to give me a bank account under a sovereign bank. Just be easier for them to photocopy your documents that you're using, and then when they have to go back in and look at what your legal status is, they'll be like, wow, well, look at this. Did she realize, these, documents were taken in without a fight because they are like the system's documents. So you don't have to fight and you don't have to argue. I don't want to fight and I don't want to argue with anyone and I don't want to have to educate people. But presumption, remember we talked about that. Law is based on presumption. So if I gave them a World Passport and a World Birth Certificate and something happened with my bank account and the government was trying to steal my money or whatever else, or the IRS, and I went into the bank and I said, I'm sovereign. You should take a look at, the original documents that I submitted to open this bank account, and you have my World Passport, upper and lowercase name. You have my World Birth Certificate, upper and lowercase name. And at some point I submitted a factualized trust and a power of attorney. So the presumption's on my side. So the bank has to say, no, we're not going to conform. In this particular case, we're not going to conform to the IRS or the government. And that stops the whole fight. That stops the whole problem. Instead of arguing, going into court, going into the banks, going into with all this crazy paperwork that a lot of these people have never seen. They don't understand what it means. And then end up getting your bank account closed or getting arrested or, it's just not worth your time to fight with the system. I'm not saying don't fight against it, but I'm saying don't fight with it. That's the difference. You can create your presumptions through paperwork in a silent way that looks like you're complying, but you're not. Lenny?
Yes? I think that...
Good, you're still there.
Yeah, no, I was having a fascinating time listening to the conversation. I note that we've run out of time. Do you want to quickly tell everybody about Consciousness of Economics website and how to get there?
Yeah, I have a website that doesn't have much on it, but it's coe-llc.com. Has my healthcare stuff and different stuff on it, different things that I consult for. And then I have Consciousness of Economics and Urban Farm Project YouTube channel. And then I have Carrying Stones and Digging Holes radio show on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com on Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern.
All right. We'll talk to everybody again tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you all for listening. This is Dr. Lenny Thyme saying, have a great day. And I do believe that that is a wrap. And so we're no longer on
Awesome.
show, but we now are on third hour of show, so we can continue conversation. Thanks, Bridgette. That was pretty awesome.
Hey, you
Well,
guys
I hope that it
I apologize for interrupting
Oh, not a problem. It's one of those things that, as a new player, we haven't even explained to you the rules, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, the thing is like, I hope people can go back and, you know, listen to it, and, or, you know, maybe people got something out of it. But trying to explain it from kind of the place that I'm operating from. I'm not trying to do paperwork to be anything, redeem anything, get anything, or get, you know, what I'm owed or what other people have control over. That's not, you know, why I'm doing it. I do it because I want to let people know that I am the trustee over my trust, and that these people declare that they own it. But each agency that I deal with, giving them the information kind of more in a silent way and using it when I need to use it, starts to educate each organization that, you know, the main theme here, that the government is the trustee over my trust, and everything in it, including, you know, my identifications and my birth certificate and my body and my soul and all these other things, is not correct.
Well, I'm glad I dropped out of the system. Now, trying to get an ID within the system and establish back because of circumstance has become incredibly difficult. So I likely...
Right. You could get a world passport, I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah, I have no doubt I could. And I will as soon as I raise enough funds to do it.
Right, and then you don't hurt your integrity of what you've done so far by getting a world passport or a world birth certificate, and it provides you two types of identification that you can use to open a bank account, or you can use to do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes that need to be on that are interesting. For anyone...
Yeah, and then, you know, like... Yeah, go ahead.
Michelle, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I spent several years as a notary public. We actually have, believe it or not, two separate forms of government underneath this umbrella of the United States. As a notary public, there's also judges and other appointed people, and the way that they hold actually stronger than if you were to show up in a courtroom. Let's say I notarized a document for you. Let's say you came and you set a power of attorney over yourself, even if it is yourself, and it was over the cap letter thing or whatnot. I verify who you are, and I do take your left thumbprint, not your index finger. I register you in my book, and if you get called into a courtroom setting and somebody's contesting something or anything is going on, you lay down the documents that you signed in front of a notary public, and no matter what's going on in that courthouse, everything falls away, and whatever was done with the seal of the notary public is what holds. So I didn't know if a lot of people knew that. I did it for about 4.5 years, and it really, you know, it cost some money to take the class and to become a notary public, but I don't think a lot of people are aware that even though you're showing me an ID with all capital letters on it, in my book, you are being transferred over into the small letter, large letter, out of the corporation name. I'm using that just as a verification. And then I put you in as a sovereign individual, and your signature actually matches what I wrote in my book as a capital first letter, and your first name and capital letter, and your last name. And like I said, any documents that are done in front of, whether it be wills, trusts, there's all kinds of different documents that I've come across, when I was a notary public. And those, if somebody tried to take you to court and you laid down that notarized document, it held precedence, and no matter what was going on, that document threw everything else aside. So just something, and it's real easy to look into notaries, and it's real easy to look into the civil court system where you're not at the lost at sea, because we're supposed to be actually running under that umbrella. And this other umbrella came in and kind of took over, but we still do have some power, and that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, no, I mean, all the documents that I deal with, even that world passport, you have to have notarized. So, before you send it in, but yeah, I have a specific notary that I deal with here, in Reno that, kind of understands my kind and some of the documents that I bring in, even though sometimes he'll want to read it first, which is good, He also is a paralegal, so he likes to see some of the things that we're doing. It interests him, kind of language and stuff we're using. But yeah, I mean, in reality, there's actually 3 United States that are operating. Not just 2, but there's 3. There's actually 3. And there are court cases that talk about the 3 different United States that are operating simultaneously. Another thing too is that you have to realize, in the legal systems that we have now, there's a whole bunch, so I have to think about this. Okay, we have corporate law, we have civil law, we have criminal law, we have common law, we have admiralty law, we have
natural law,
we have administrative law. There's a few more that are in there, and those are just the ones that are operating kind of in the system, and so it becomes really complicated to try to cover all those bases sometimes. But the thing is, I recommend that everybody look into their own paperwork. I just wanted to bring forth the, passport and the world birth certificate, because it was a really easy, wonderful experience to get for having, alternative IDs, and also for getting a passport to be able to come and go in the world, whenever I want to, without having to ask permission or, have to try to get a U.S. passport, which I'm pretty sure they probably wouldn't give me, because, I have been kind of a thorn in their side multiple, periods. And then, if people are interested, like I told Lenny, if people are interested in the future, maybe a few weeks or whatever, doing another show, and we can talk about the type of simple documents that, I'm using. And like I said, the person I'm working with is a retired common law court judge. And we decided, that we didn't really want to have to, we just weren't really interested in the long, lengthy processes of, the typical documents that people use, like Winston Shroud, Judge Anna, a lot of these other people. We felt that we we didn't want to declare ourselves, you know, completely void of the system. And, you know, think about this. I mean, one of the things is that, you know, if you were retired and you worked your whole life and you were going to get Social